Hey everybody, it's Justin from Bittnerbuilt, and this is my home office. We've been renovating it for the past month, both for a nice workspace, but also I'm adding in a small YouTube studio in here for another channel that I'm going to be launching in about another month or so, so stay tuned for that. For our build project today, we're going to be tackling this big blue wall back here. And I decided that I wanted something clean and nice in the background here, so we're going to go with some custom floating shelves. The design is very easy, the build process is very easy, but the one thing that I do want to focus on is adding lighting elements that are hidden. When you add lighting elements, it can bring a lot of ambiance to your room when you put it into the shelving, but you want to make sure that you're not just sticking a light strip underneath. You want to make sure that that light is being reflected off of something else so that you never catch that direct light directly in your eyes. You want the glow from the light in the room. So let's get to this easy build today on Bittnerbuilt. So this is how my office looked previously, and here's now what I've been doing. I built in a large L-shape built-in workstation for my wife and I. My video equipment storage station, that cabinet's going to get painted white today when we paint all these shelves. My nice interview table that I made, as well as this backdrop over here. There's going to be a neon sign that goes in this hole here. I think I have everything pretty good, but I really want a nice background over there, so let's get to building those floating shelves. So before we start building our shelf, we need to take a look at the bracket that we're going to use, because that will dictate how we build our shelf around the bracket. There are lots of different types of floating brackets out there. Most of them have dowels that come off the main bracket piece. I contacted my friends at Shelfology, and I've worked with them a couple times. They're a cool company. They sent out their Aksel HD hollow core shelving system for me to use. Why I like this and why I like working with Shelfology is this is solid plate steel with tubular steel welded onto it by hand. It's an American company. It's all made here, so it's top of the line quality. Each one of these arms holds 125 pounds, so we're looking at a 500-pound weight capacity on this 4-arm one right here. Now, this is a hollow core shelf, so what this does is, first off, we have tubular arms instead of those dowels, and so we have a flat surface for our board to lay on. I'll actually lay right here. And because these tubes are flush with the back rail, I can literally just set my board right on top and we're good. That means that I can just make a hollow box, slide it on top. All of the weight is going to sit on the top piece, and we're done. It's that easy. We don't have to route out a pocket in the back. We don't have to drill holes into anything. It's a very simple way to be able to build these shelves by using these brackets. So that's what we're going to do today. The shelves that I'm building are going from wall to wall, which means I don't need any end caps on there either, which makes it an even easier construction for me. Of course, if you are going to alter what I'm doing here to add end caps, you're probably going to want to cut 45-degree angles in a whole bunch of different ways, and I'll point it out to you when we get there. But otherwise, this is going to be a very, very simple build. Up on the screen is my cut sheet, so you can go ahead and follow along if you want to take a screenshot of that. Now, I'm going to do a small dummy shelf just so that you can see how to build one easy. If I'm doing the big 10-foot ones, you're not going to be able to see it. So what we're going to do is cut 3 boards to the exact same length, whatever length you need for your shelves to be. Make sure you're using a stop block. You want them exactly the same length. 2 of them are 7 1/4 inch boards. This will be my top and bottom of the shelf, and then one of them is a 4 1/2 inch board that is going to be the front face of my shelf that has an overhang accounting for our LED light strips. Starting with the top shelf, we're already to the dimension that we need with the 7 1/4, but I do need to cut a 45-degree off of the front face. That way when I put the 2 boards together, there's going to be a seamless look there. I wanted to talk about a safety piece here. We need to cut a ton of these very small spacers for inside of the shelves. I need to cut like 30 something. The dimensions that I have for this are 1 3/8. That is a small piece. But in order to make all of them the exact same size, you must use a stop block when you're at the miter saw to cut this. That way every single one is going to be the exact same length. You can do that as easy as just clamping down a board like I'm showing here. When you cut this piece though, because the piece of wood is now against an immovable object next to the blade's going to come down and cut the wood, but on the way back up, if those blades catch that piece of wood, normally it would just move it over to the side a teeny bit, but now that it's pinched there, it is going to jam and send this piece of wood flying, most likely at you. Maybe damaging your saw, maybe damaging you. So best practices with this. Number one, when you cut this, once you plunge, or you should be plunging and drawing in, depending on what type of saw you have, cut off the saw while it's in the down state. Only lift it back up again after the blade has stopped spinning. That way you don't run the risk of it catching and flying. The other thing you could do is utilize, when we're over at the table saw, we use a push stick. Here we use one of these hold sticks. It's the Best Fence. No sponsorship or anything, just I've shown this before. I like this tool. So basically this will sit on this side, holding down our little block on the cut side, and then we can make our cut, come back up. It held it in place so that it couldn't fly away. Take it away, do it again with the next one. Again, I just wanted to point this out because, trust me, I've made the mistake before when I cut and boom, all of a sudden a little piece of wood goes flying somewhere. When you're using a stop block, make sure you apply pressure to the cut side or you turn off your saw when it's in the plunge state. My top shelf is cut and I have the 45 degree here at the top. I'm now going to center this on the Aksel bracket. I want the ability to be able to move it left and right once I mount it on the wall, just because you don't know if the stud is going to be right here or if the stud's going to be right here when you actually have to mount this bracket to the wall, at least for like maximum sturdiness. What we're going to do now is add in our spacer blocks. So these are going to go in between each one of these pillars, and because they're in between, I'm going to have a huge amount of room to still move this shelf back and forth. When I place these, I'm going to glue them and use a brad nail gun, just because my pin nailer, the length of this 1 3/8 is just too long for that. So I'm going to use a brad from behind under here. It will not penetrate the top, so nobody's going to see it. When I put this in, I'm not going to rest it on this bottom plate like you see right now. I'm going to lift it up just a hair because this block is here for structural rigidity. It's not here to be a guide. It's not here to be a stop. So I don't want to accidentally cause any interference with the bracket when I mount this shelf. So just raising it up just a hair is good, but definitely it cannot exceed the height of the pillar or else it will interfere with other stuff. So just make sure it's not too high. It's kind of right in the middle of this pillar. I do need to designate a side of my shelf that I leave a large gap at. And I'm going to choose to do that on my left side in my office. It's kind of obscured by my computer monitors and stuff. So that's where I'm going to run my power up. There's a lot of different options that you could take here. You could do a hardwired option. You might need the use of an electrician in order to do that and run the wires through the wall. I'm choosing to just run a extension cord up the side of the wall to each one of the shelves, and I'm going to hide it with a piece of molding in the corner of the office. In each one of my shelves, I'm going to use one of these Govee light strips. Pick your poison as far as what lighting company you want to use for these different things. They're all so cheap now, but I do recommend, if you are going to use one that plugs in, use one like this Govee one that you can program with your phone. So basically what I can do is have all of my shelves with all of these light strips, and they'll all work as one unit for room. So when I walk into that room, I can tell my watch, personal assistant, to turn on office lights, and all of them will turn on. And then on my phone, I can change the colors and stuff. So that's why I'm going to use this one. But this one has a big power brick at the end. So where is this going to go? Well, I'm going to hide it inside the cavity of the shelf at the end. So I'm going to go maybe 4 inches and place one last one. That's going to severely limit my movement back and forth. So I actually did just take this one inside and place it up on the wall where I saw the studs, just to make sure that I pretty much had an idea that this is where it's going to land. Giving it another 2 to 3 inches of movement will just ensure that it gets into the right place. After I attach this one, we need to cut our bottom board now. So these were the exact same size. I need to now cut off 3/4 of an inch off the top of this so that when the two boards come together right here, they will sit on top of this one. Right, from the side we have the top of our shelf with the spacer, and now I'm adding in the bottom of our shelf that we just cut 3/4 of an inch off. When I line them up, you'll notice that they are now the exact same height at the bottom of our 45-degree cut. When I add on the top plate right here, they will now perfectly match up. So our next step, we need to add a lot of glue to our spacer on the inside, clamp everything up, and then if you are using maybe some nicer wood and you're going to stain this, go ahead and just let the clamps do the work and let it dry. I'm going to be painting this, so I will clamp so everything is stable and in place, and then I'm going to use a pin nailer from the bottom. You will not see any pin nail indentations once I paint, so that way I can move faster and keep going. All right, I've put glue on all of my spacers. I'm now going to use a combo square to basically make sure that I'm lining everything up. I want to make sure that they're exactly at the same position at the end here. I'll scooch it down so we're in the video. And then I'm going to clamp at the bottom, checking with the combo square a couple times. Don't want that to come out of square. Good. Apply a whole bunch of clamps. When you're going to be using a nailer on something important like this, it's good to shoot it into a test piece of material like this. The important thing is to set it so that you are flush with the material, that your nail is not protruding, and that you're not making a divot if possible. So here I am flush, I'm good, and then when I paint over this piece, I won't have to do any repair work beforehand with filling in a divot. Okay, we got a nice rigid box. Let's take our front cap and cut a 45 on here as well, so that when we put them together, they'll slide together nicely. All right, our top piece has its 45-degree cut in it. We can now lay it right on top. Ooh, and look at that. Perfect. The line disappears. There's no end grain showing up on this top piece. Since we're talking about the end, let's look at this. I'm going wall to wall, so it doesn't matter that I'm doing this. You're never going to see it. If you were going to be in the middle of a room, however, not going butt up against a wall, you need to do something with your ends. There are better designs for situations like that, but let's talk about if you wanted this to be more presentable. One option, fill in this cavity, sand it really good, flush if you're painting. Obviously, if you are leaving it stained, that would probably be the ugliest choice, probably. Another option, you would cut this at a 45, this at a 45, this at a 45, and then your end piece you would have to cut on all three sides at 45s and lay it in here. Another option is to add a large thing at the end, a large block, a decorative molding piece. They sell, you know, kind of very decorative end caps that you could put here. Obviously you have to get the right size, but adding something right here that's more finished would obviously hide this as well. But at this point I could just apply glue, clamp this down, and this would be done. But I want to do one more step, and it has to do with our lighting. So I could just attach my light strip under here. It will do a good job, it's fine, but I want to go an extra step, and I want to route a trough underneath this all the way down. What that's going to do is it's going to recess that light strip just a little bit. And why I want to do that is something that I deal with a lot with the fact that I'm here on YouTube. I do videography and I have lighting equipment in here. If you have a light bulb that's shining right in your face, it is just too bright. That is even the case when you're looking at these little itty bitty diode lights from the LED strip. If you're looking directly at it, those little points of light can be too much. So that's why with videography equipment, we use soft boxes and we use reflectors. If you've ever seen like a behind the scenes on a movie set, you see these people with big shiny sheets of stuff kind of running along with people. It's so that the light reflects off of that and then onto the subject. It's a softer light. It diffuses it. By me running my lights right here through my soft boxes, I can look right at this light and it's not too bright for me. So that's what we're doing. We're recessing this in so none of the light will go straight down, which could possibly go in my eyes if I'm sitting underneath the shelf. It will only ricochet off the bottom of the shelf and then shoot down at the wall for, you know, the items that I want to have displayed on here. It's going to create a lot more diffusion. So let's go over to the router table to add this trough. You could use a palm router for this, but a router table is best. You're going to set your 1/2 inch bit to 1/8 inch off of the table. Using my little setup block here. I'm also positioning it 1/2 inch off of the back of the fence. When I run this, I'm not running it with the side of the 45-degree cut. I'm going to put my flat edge against the fence with my 45-degree cut facing down. This is the out-facing piece, so we don't want to route the pocket on this side. If you are doing it wall to wall like I am, you can just go ahead and start at the end and run it all the way through. If you are doing it as a floating shelf where you see the sides, you might want to start your pocket about 1 inch off of the edge here by pressing it down, moving it, and then when you get to the end, you're going to want to stop about 1 inch from the end and pick it up from the side. Here we are. I flipped my shelf over, so this is the groove that we have for the lighting. At the end, where I'm going to be tucking all of the electrical wires in, I need to drill a hole here. So I'm using a 5/8 bit, and I'm putting it pretty close to right where my tape will be ending. That way the wire can just pop in. And I want it close to this front plate just so that it's hiding the hole. All right, all that's left is to sand and paint or stain, whatever your preference is. I'm going to go ahead and build the 3 other shelves that we're going to be installing too, and then we'll go mount everything for the final product. Let's go ahead and mount our Aksel bracket. Now, beforehand, I've gone through with a stud finder and I've marked with tape where my studs are. Where this bracket is first going to screw in, I do not have a stud, but I still want to put a small screw at the very corner of this bracket, then apply a level before starting on my first stud. That way I can hinge it at one end, bring it up till it's level, and then start working. I don't want to try and just freehand hold everything in place. So I have measured and marked an offset off of my wall that corresponds with, you know, where I want my bracket to be. Let's go ahead and do it. You mount the bracket by first putting in your pivot screw. That enables us to get our level into position. Now that I have it leveled, I can start screwing into the studs. All right, moment of truth. Let's try a dry fit. There we go. For installing my 10-foot long shelves up here, it requires 2 brackets. And so what I've done is mounted one, just like I showed before, and then we've clamped on a long level to this so that it makes it incredibly easy for me to mount the second one, perfectly matching the angle of the first. Last night I sanded and painted all of my shelves, so my last assembly thing is to run my LED strip. What I'm going to do now is feed the entirety of the strip through this hole that I have into the end cavity, where we're going to be hiding all of the power cables. Make sure to do this really carefully. I'm now going to hide the controller box inside this end piece. It actually comes with some sticky tape. So I'm going to jam this in there, and cool enough, it's actually the exact width right there. Can then plug in the power cable, and so now all of this is going to live in here. I will be running up my power cable to this, plugging it in, and then continuing on to the next one. Now we can go ahead and peel off the backing and apply the sticky LED strip to the groove that we've created. We need to power the lights for these shelves. So if you want, you could literally poke a hole in the wall and hide the cabling down in the wall. You might need an electrician for that, but that would be the cleanest installation. What I'm going to be doing is running a cable up this corner, and then we're going to hide it with some molding. I actually have the need to put several cables in this corner for videography purposes, so I want a chase that I can hide my cables in. So that's what we're going to do here. For this cable, I'm using lamp cord. This is 16-2. 2 means that it's 2 strands here. On it, I'm going to use Gilbert plugs. If you've watched my channel, I use these a lot with my Christmas light business. People don't know about these, but these are awesome. So this is a female Gilbert plug. This is a male. And basically, all you have to do is you stick the wire on it, and you slide the cap on, and you're done. You have a plug on a piece of wire. No electrician needed. So I can basically make a long length of wire, put a female at the other end, male at one end, female at the other. But a really cool thing about it is, as I run this up the wall, when I get to the shelf, I can take a female and put it in the middle of the wire, add a plug, and now I have another female outlet in the middle of this wire. I could put 20 females on here if I wanted to. It's almost like a power strip. So I'm going to run the wire up, put a female at each shelf. That way I can power it, plug it in down at the bottom. And then we're going to take a small piece of wood that is cut at a 45-degree angle on both sides. I've painted it to match my wall. I'm adhering it to the wall with double-sided sticky tape because I want to be able to take it off easily and put it back on again. So that is a good application for this. And now it is hiding my wires. I've cut it pretty thick so that I can hide many wires back there, but you could obviously make this a lot smaller, a lot less visible by using a skinnier piece of wood. Well, we're all finished. The shelves came out really nice. I think that this really filled the space in a very clean and nice looking way. Much better than just putting a couple things up on, the wall, hanging them up like a picture or something. Now I can display quite a bit of stuff on here. It's nice storage space. I tried not to overdo it, but there's actually a lot of stuff on here, and I really didn't feel like I bunched it all up. The lighting came out really great. I actually really like that I can change the colors on it. Usually I'm an all white person, so usually it's just white. I don't go crazy with the colors, maybe like a blue, but I'm actually having a lot of fun, and I think it looks pretty good in here with each one of the shelves almost a different color. Crazy as that sounds. I never would have thought I would have liked it that way, but my wife agrees. She likes it that way too. I definitely had a good time building these because of the Shelfology Aksel bracket. Thank you again so much, Shelfology, for sending that out for me. Hollow core is really, really easy when you're doing a floating shelf, and so being able to have that flat plane surface on there, super easy. So it holds a lot of weight, and it was really easy construction, so I think that's a pretty big win. If you like anything that you saw in the video, if you got some good content, I hope you will like and subscribe. That's what really helps me out. I hope you'll stay safe in the shop, and I'll see you in the next one.